One thing Skydio can do specifically, and that we are doing, is being careful about, who gets these things. So when I started, a big part of our business was consumers. So we used to make drones for consumers, like follow me camera, like follow me and film me while I'm mountain biking. These days, you cannot just go on Skydio.com and buy a drone. So if, anti-privacy LLC like reaches out to buy a drone, we're just going to say no.
Welcome to The Bomb, Engineering a Path Forward. I'm your host, Magenta Strongheart. Drones are everywhere these days. Every movie, extreme sports film, and even your friend's wedding has a buzzing quadcopter in the background getting photos and film. While this new angle has made our favorite movies truly stunning, we've only just started scratching the surface of what's possible with this technology. Today on The Bomb, we're sitting down with Senior Hardware Development Specialist at Skydio, Eric Weinhoffer. Eric and Skydio have been exploring and experimenting with what's possible in the world of drone technology. A key component of their quest is to build an uncrashable drone with a mixture of laser vision and AI positioning. Later, we'll hear tips on how to organize your dream shop space and learn why only certain people can buy a Skydio drone. We'll be right back with Eric. We live in a time where design and technology touch every aspect of our lives. But where did it all come from? Who designed it? How is it built and brought to market? What will it look like in a year, 2 years, 100 years? From the phones and smartwatches that help us in our day-to-day to the cutting-edge spaceships and 3D printers that are leading us into the future, modern design is constantly shaping the way we work, communicate, problem solve, and play. And every new design, big or small, starts with an idea and a bill of materials. I'm Magenta Strongheart, and this is The Bomb, where we talk to leading innovators in the tech world and celebrate the transformational power of design. Welcome to The Bomb, Eric. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to catch up.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
We were just talking about when was the last time we saw each other, and I think it was at SuperCon in Pasadena. But we were trying to remember, 2019, 2018, something like that.
2019, I think.
Yeah.
Which I think was the first SuperCon.
For you.
Yeah. And for me, and the only one I've been to, unfortunately. So now
you got to come back.
More.
Maybe this year is the year.
Yeah.
We just celebrated, well, I guess it was actually 10 years for Hackaday Prize, not technically for SuperCon last year.
All right, because they were separate for a while.
Yeah, and last year was technically the 7th SuperCon in person, but we had 2 remote ones during the pandemic. So I'm like, what does that mean? That's like 9,
it's like a lot.
Which means, this year's kind of 10th SuperCon, kind of not, because I don't know if we count the remote ones, but regardless, it's going to be epic and awesome. And we just had our like kind of mini SuperCon in Berlin, which we do in the spring, which always gets us excited about just planning the next one. Okay, but back to your kind of early days and engineering, story. Tell us more about how you got into it. You ended up studying mechanical engineering in school, right, in university. Yep. So were there any major projects you feel like that you remember that kind of were the catalyst that got you in at that point, or that you were working on in school that also at the time were you thinking I'm going to end up in hardware, or was that something that came later?
Yeah, I think I definitely knew I wanted to do hardware stuff. I didn't know what exactly, but certainly Make Magazine was a huge influence, before college and then during, because I think without that, I wouldn't have really known what to expect in terms of like what engineers do day to day. But Make came out when I was in high school, and I started reading it and finding that really fascinating and seeing cool projects that people in this world of like the crafters, DIYers did.
Yeah, I also loved Make Magazine and had a subscription for a long time.
Hugely influential, and I think made me want to find like whatever that sort of job was, like more of like the scrappy DIY mindset rather than like a desk engineer. But I think that's basically all I knew. It's like, okay, I think I had a sense throughout college that if I were to go to some Johnson & Johnson or something, I'd probably be sitting at a desk, like doing drawings a lot of the time. And
working on one little part of this giant thing that you're not really aware of everything else.
And I really knew I wanted to be more hands-on. So the big influence in college was, working at a makerspace there. So I was able to help start and build this space called the Invention Studio at Georgia Tech, which I think is is still very well known as like one of the first fully student run makerspaces.
That's awesome.
So that was just a like free opportunity for me to learn how to use these tools and use them for whatever I wanted.
And how did you find out, just sorry, really quick tangent, but how did you find out about that opportunity when you were in school? Did someone like pick you out and say like, you'd be good for this because you had been in the shops or something like that? Or you had your eye out on opportunities like this and it was posted somewhere? Because I think it's helpful for students that might be in school right now who want those kind of unicorn opportunities, but it's like, where do you look, or do you just have to wait and hope someone picks you for something? I
wish
like
I
that?
had better advice. Yeah, it was mostly luck for me, but I think you can set yourself up by just following your interests.
Sure.
So the thing that helped me was that I was really interested in 3D printing and was lucky enough to have an internship at MakerBot in the summer of 2009. So after my freshman year of college. And so once I came back from that and I had a 3D printer with me now, I guess people knew that I like knew about 3D printing.
You're the maker guy.
Yeah. And at the time it was still so fresh and new that like most people didn't have 3D printers and the MakerBot cupcake had just come out.
MakerBot cupcake throwback.
so someone who's now a really good friend reached out. Chris Quintero, who also was at Bolt for a long time. I don't know how he found me, but he was also at Georgia Tech and reached out and said they were going to start up this makerspace and I think initially I was like the 3D printing master. So the person who knew 3D printing. Yeah. And that's how I got my foot in the door.
Do you still have that title on your resume somewhere?
I wish.
It's pretty epic. You got to keep that somewhere.
These days there's so many people who know 3D printing way more than I do and have grown up with it. So I've been doing it for a long time, but it's definitely not a mastery.
Do you remember any of the like first like wow moments that when you 3D printed something, either whether if you remember a specific component or project or something that you were just like, wow, I can't believe I just did that,
I mean, I think it was just the very early, I don't even think it really mattered, or I don't matter exactly what early prints I made were, but it was just the fact that this is possible.
That it just popped out.
That like you're starting with this plastic noodle and like this is basically just a fancy hot glue gun, but it's making
That's what I always say when we're talking about it at the lab.
It's a good way to explain it. It's like a fancy hot glue gun and it's fairly simple, but for it to pop out, a fully 3D hard plastic part was just incredible. So I remember the early classics like the Stanford Bunny, and I think like a Darth Vader bust. I feel like
you see those in all the maker spaces.
Definitely. Or like the Yoda head. All those early classics.
Awesome. And then from there, did you start at Make after that? And then obviously eventually got to Bolt. What else was in between there?
Yeah, lots of stuff. So I ended up at Make through, I met Dale through doing the Atlanta Mini Maker Fair at Georgia Tech. So I'd been reading Make magazine and had always wanted to go to a maker fair, but the only two at the time, or the two biggest, were in New York and here, the Bay Area. But they were in September and May when I was in school. So my solution was to just start one myself at Georgia Tech, which I worked on fully remotely. I was actually here in Sunnyvale for the summer of 2011 and somehow like arranged the whole show to happen at Georgia Tech that fall in September of 2011.
Awesome.
And I guess also somehow Dale, the founder of Make, came shortly after. So we met. And I basically was like, I don't have a job yet for next year.
Yeah, you're looking for anyone.
Yeah, so they hired me as a product development engineer. So I was able to help them. It was a really good learning experience, especially just around supply chain and working with suppliers. Yeah,
what's it like being product development engineer for Make? I mean, because they're working on a bunch of different projects. I actually guess I kind of forgot they were also selling some things. So they were selling like kits and things, right?
Yeah, so that was the whole role. Was the Maker Shed was their online store, which I don't think exists anymore.
Yeah, I kind of totally forgot about that. I always think about the fairs. I think about the magazine, but of course.
Well, especially a huge part of the fair for Make was having the Maker Shed there, like the physical store presence.
Showcase.
Yeah, so working on the Maker Shed was cool. It was definitely a great experience figuring out how to combine parts together for a kit that we think people would want to produce. So I worked with a lot of overseas suppliers and got some custom parts made by suppliers. So So that part was really interesting, and it was definitely a big supply chain challenge and dealing with like high quantities. And then the Maker Faire side of it was also just super fun.
Do you remember at that time what you were using for supply chain management, kind of as far as like spreadsheets, notepads,
it was definitely
a software dashboard, a little bit of everything?
It was not a software. I mean, I think it was a lot of just Excel.
Yeah. Excel and calling people up and that sort of thing.
Definitely. I'm like shocked thinking back that they let me do some of this, but like quantity projections for like how many kits we would have to produce for Maker Faire, and also to have in some retail stores, because when Radio Shack was a thing, they were in Radio Shacks. It was like
I miss Radio Shack
so much. Yeah, looking at all of the past sales and like trying to figure out how many we should do, and like certainly I was not qualified to be doing this, but
I don't know.
Yeah, it's like I could use Excel and send an RFQ to our giant supplier in China, and we get boxes and boxes in.
But an amazing experience. I mean, as far as like building up a range of kind of like skills from the business side of things, projecting, usage, quantities, all of that. So, and budget, of course.
Definitely.
And everything. So you probably got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything, and very valuable to work with suppliers right out of the gate, right out of college, because I think, maybe or a few years ago, I would have been like, I wish I like had started doing more design stuff early on or more fabrication. But it was really great to know the ins and outs of working with overseas suppliers.
Yeah, I'm sure that came in handy so many times later on.
Yeah, definitely did.
Yeah. Okay, and so how did you eventually get into more of the design and mechanical engineering side of things?
So from Make, I then went just a few blocks away here in the city to work for Other Machine Co., where I helped design the Other Mill. So that was, which is a tiny, all plastic PCB milling machine.
Run by the amazing Danielle Applestone.
Yes, amazing Danielle Applestone, and a very small team of like fairly junior engineers. Again, thinking back, I'm like, wow, we really did not know what we were doing. But it was an incredible...
We made it work.
We made it work, and it was an incredible learning experience. And just like the typical super small team where everyone does lots of different stuff. So we were producing the mills in-house and designing them. And our office was at Other Lab, which has this amazing prototyping shop. So we would, design a part in SolidWorks and then go downstairs where production was happening on the CNC router of these plastic frames. But we could also pop over to the water jet and prototype a sheet metal part.
Yeah. And did you guys ever get to, I know like at one point part of the vision was, or correct me if I'm wrong, I might be confusing it with a different company, but for the other mills to also kind of produce themselves in some ways, right? Were they producing some of the parts by the machines or not quite?
I don't think they ever... Well, we could. Yeah, we could produce some of the parts. Yeah, in theory. So like a lot of... Because a lot of it is plastic.
Because it's a small...
Yeah, or especially like the,
kind of,
the linear bearings were like very simple Delrin parts that we absolutely did machine. Not for production, but for prototyping. You can produce them on the Other Mill. Which is super cool.
Yeah, we still have 3 other mills at Design Lab, and they're super fun. And I love like the form factor. Obviously, it has limitations as far as like the build size and whatnot, but for little things, it's so convenient, and they just like look great in our space. Obviously, like our space is just as much, I feel like, as a showroom as it is a shop space and stuff. So
they do
maybe that
great.
Sounds silly, but they just look great, and they're so compact. And the design is really nice. Yeah,
they're super cute. I think, again, in hindsight, thinking about the product fit, probably wasn't the most important thing to have a piece like a really high accuracy PCB mill in a tiny frame that you could with handles and take on the BART. But the fact that it is that way is like, just
it's still
awesome.
super cool.
Still super cool.
And we carry them around our space. Like that is part of the fun of having the handles and stuff is, we keep them in one room, but when we're working on a project where we're going to use them more regularly, we'll bring it out to the main space. And that's a big part of also, Design Lab is having kind of this modular setup, and they work really well for that. So
I wish this category of like somewhat portable tools or tools like really, accurate tools with handles was more of a thing.
Yeah.
There are a few, like Shaper Origin comes to mind. And, but I love that like aesthetic.
Yeah, totally.
I think, ShopBot had like a HandyBot at some point, which is like a tiny router you could like put up into a wall and cut out a hole. And like, I love stuff.
No, it kind of makes sense. And I guess I am surprised that there's not more of that too. There's, I guess, fine line of like when it really is functional and practical and when it's just going too far into fun. But also there's a place for that. Definitely. There's always a time and a place for that. And we would use it. So they have at least, a market there. But no, I can think of a lot of people who would be excited about those kinds of tools. And I think that's actually a really nice segue to kind of managing shop spaces as part of a lot of your roles. Because I feel like obviously I know at Bolt you were, a big part of your role was managing the facility, the prototyping facility, and you can tell us more about that. But it sounds like also in your Georgia Tech days, you were doing that sort of thing. So it's always kind of been a part, probably maybe if it's not always unofficially part of the job. Because I feel like once you do that role a few times, you just end up gravitating. Like they're like, he can help us fix this machine. He knows the best way to organize this.
That absolutely happens. Yeah, but it is fun to have it as part of the role too. I just love the combination of setting up a prototyping space and then using it too. I think it would be hard to put in all the work. And I actually have done a little bit of contract work of like setting up machine shops. And it was super fun to have, of course, when you're working with a giant budget also. They're like, oh yeah, let's do this like $300,000 CNC machine and that like crazy vinyl, like whatever. But then to not be able to use the tools or use like, the space. Yeah, like, oh, those tools were so nice. I wish I could use them. So that, is sort of sad. So it's really great when you can set up the space and then use the tools yourself. Because you can, feel all the work that you put into it. But the third part that I also really enjoy is the education. So helping, setting up the space, using the tools myself and improving, but then also educating other people on how to use the tools safely.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Eric is going to share with us the ins and outs of his role at Skydio and why the drones he and his team are building are designed with humanity in mind. Welcome back to The Bomb. I'm your host, Magenta Strongheart. Drones have changed so many aspects of the way we record our lives, but what if they could start protecting them too? Skydio has been working to build drones that can go where it's too dangerous for humans to go. So now you're at Skydio. I would love to hear kind of the elevator pitch of what Skydio does, and then tell us more about your role there, because you're also working at the shops there and doing all the things, engineering and design and all the things.
Yeah, it's great. So Skydio is a drone company. We make drones that are like foldable and like put in a backpack sort of size. So a few pounds. The main thing that, sets us apart is the autonomy. So, the typical drone you might see today or for the last however long drones have existed are very manual. And like, if you stick forward into a wall, they will typically fly into the wall. So our big bet, similar to how like Tesla approached it with autonomous driving, is using cameras for navigation. So in addition to the camera on the gimbal that does the filming that all drones have, we also have 3 super high field of view, like 210 degree field of view navigation cameras, 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom of each vehicle. And so we use these with optical flow and other crazy computer vision and AI that I don't understand to make sure we're not going to hit obstacles or make an uncrashable drone. So what this allows...
An uncrashable drone, that is the dream, I would say, because that's always the fear. Even with we were just talking about our producer team, they pull out the drone every once in a while and it's always like nerve-wracking landing it, getting it back down and being like, don't lose it, don't go too far.
Exactly.
All of that.
So the bet with Scott, or the idea is to just null that completely. So anyone could pick them up and fly them in a few minutes and be like fully confident that it's not going to crash.
That's awesome.
And the vision system is the way to do that. But really that's sort of the base layer. And then everything on top of that is just unlocking capabilities you could get from putting a sensor somewhere in the sky autonomously and on a repeatable basis.
The sensors, are you saying those are like built in and optional for people to kind of customize, or you're saying just have a platform for people to add their own sensors?
So the vision is, or the big picture is like, think about any sensor and where this could be in the sky and how it could be useful. But today it's just cameras and thermal sensors. Okay. So like on our flagship product, we have a few different gimbals that you could put on that have different camera payloads. Okay. Different types of cameras. Yeah. That you can fly and use for a variety of things. Okay, so the main customers these days are public safety. So it's like responding to a 911 call, have a drone in the air to give police officers an idea of what's happening on the ground, which is super valuable and good for de-escalation. And then energy utilities, which is one I never would have guessed when I got into this, but they really rely on it for inspections of like power poles.
Okay. And places it's harder for someone to get there, that sort of thing. Or would be a really good example. A heavier lift to try to get a human up there.
Exactly. Yeah,
have to rent a crane or something.
Yeah, this isn't in the energy utility category, but a perfect example is bridge inspection. Yeah. Since they have these crazy trucks called snooper trucks where they're on top of the bridge, but then the crane puts someone in a bucket under the bridge to be looking at the underside of the bridge, which of course takes days and is super dangerous and super expensive. So if you can have a drone that does this, they can knock it out in hours. Yeah. The other great benefit we have from using vision to fly is that, typically if you fly a drone under a bridge, it's going to lose GPS. So then you could really get into trouble with you're under a bridge and you press fly home and it doesn't know where it's at. Yeah. So with our reliance on vision to navigate, we don't need GPS.
That makes sense.
So we can, put the camera up and do our inspection under the bridge and then come
also
home.
Fly out of there. No problem. Yeah. Into those hard to reach places. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely. And then to get to your question about the role. So the amazing thing and why I love being at Skydio is it is really the combination of all three. So we have our prototyping lab, a small machine shop, and a rapidly growing number of engineers who use the space. So when I started, it was maybe 20 of us on the hardware team, and now it's triple that size, 60 or so.
Over what time period?
That's been 3 years.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So lots of dozens of engineers using this space doing 3D printing, machining, electronics, prototyping, antennas, all sorts of stuff. Because the drones are all custom. Yeah. So that's been great to figure out where stuff goes, select machines, help design and fabricate things myself, typically one-offs. Yeah. And then educating people on how to use the tools.
Yeah. And so do you find in spaces like that, as far as the education point, what's the average, would you say, people coming in, or is there a big range? Because I feel as we were even just discussing earlier in the interview, a lot of engineers tend to have this desire to have the hands-on experience, and they might have, bought a 3D printer at home or had experience in their university shops or something like that. But have you found, are there engineers that'll come in with very little experience on any of the tools and really need a start from the beginning kind of introduction?
Yeah, I think a lot of it does depend on their personal interests too, because if I'm thinking about the engineers who have come into a product design role where most of their job is going to be doing CAD work. We have had some people start who, have tons of hands-on experience, but maybe they have a milling machine in their garage and just have done this out of passion. Yeah. And then, for junior engineers, it also ranges widely. I'd say these days, some knowledge of 3D printing is very common and sort of table stakes. But once you get beyond that into more, and laser cutters, a lot of people know and understand. But once you get into more of the subtractive stuff, drill press is maybe half of people are comfortable on a drill press. But then as you get past that into milling or turning, much more rare.
Yeah. What's kind of the or is there a culture within the company of how much people should rely on you, or I don't know if there's other people, managing the shop too, or have that kind of expertise versus they should be doing parts themselves? What do you feel also is the advantage for someone to do the part themselves versus however it might be produced versus pass it off to the prototyping person?
Yeah, it's a big question and something we think about a lot. And it really depends on the situation and how the company is growing and our priorities. We're definitely not at the point yet, or I don't know if we will ever be, where we sort of have an internal job shop. I know that's how a lot of bigger companies operate, where people do the design and then sort of throw it over the wall and it gets made in a certain number of days. One disadvantage of that is speed. and one reason to teach people how to use the tool is speed and just self-reliance.
Yeah. And they're going to prioritize their own part more than if it goes into this long list of then you have to figure out how are you guys prioritizing. And
it's a huge challenge to do that, like internal job shop model. It's really just a judgment call when someone comes to us and say, hey, I need this part made. If it's, it depends on the person, depends on the part. We might just say like, okay, yeah, I can do that for you today. Or if like a lot of stuff requests we get on my team are trivial to me, but maybe to someone else seem like a big ask. Like, hey, can you please just like cut this thing on the bandsaw or cut this out? Like, sure, that'll take me like 30 seconds.
Yeah. So that's when it's worth it.
That's when it's worth it. Just to.
But you're also kind of a fine line of like, that's also something you should be able to do in 30 seconds. Maybe it's not worth it for me to do a million of these 30-second jobs.
Yeah. So if they're coming a lot, like, actually, let me teach you how to use this tool. So it depends on a lot of factors, but it's something, I mean, we're constantly thinking about. Yeah. But speed is a big one. Just like allowing people and the company to operate quickly.
How to optimize, especially if you're a smaller growing team and, you really have to figure out, what's the highest priority and what makes takes the advantage of each person's time where they need to be putting their time most. I think I said that the same thing like 5 different ways just now, but moving on.
Worth emphasizing.
Yes. Do you have a favorite tool in your shop currently?
Yeah, this is, constantly evolving. I think these days, probably the ultrasonic cutter.
Okay.
Yeah, there are these handheld cutters that...
I don't think I've ever worked with an ultrasonic cutter.
Yeah, they're amazing, especially for plastics.
Okay, cool.
So like if you do a lot of 3D printing and then need to modify the 3D printed part, like make the hole bigger or cut out a little slot for some clearance, ultrasonic knives are amazing because they vibrate at the ultrasonic frequency and just like cut through plastic like butter.
Like
Yeah.
We got to get one for Design Lab. I'm going to put in a request.
Yeah. It has been, I will say it's been hard to find. How big is it? Is it like... You can find, like pretty affordable ones on Amazon that just have a pack this big. And then the knife just looks like a fat X-Acto.
Okay. It's almost like an X-Acto. That's what I was wondering. Is it like that or is it kind of maybe a smaller Sawzall or something like that was what I was imagining. Okay.
Much more portable.
Cool. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
I would recommend, there are some you can find on Amazon that are like pretty cheap, but they die really fast.
Yeah, so you get what you pay for.
Yeah. So we've had a struggle finding some high quality ones.
And we are getting close to time here, so I'll wrap it up shortly. But I did want to kind of hear from you what you think as far as like working on the drone, working on a device that's heavily, involving autonomy and kind of machine learning and AI. And how do you feel about kind of the responsibility that comes with that? I think that obviously just anybody these days, like in and out of tech, we're talking about this, so it's kind of on everybody's mind. And especially when it's at the forefront of like what you're working on a daily basis.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you guys kind of balance that? And where do you kind of see the future of that going as far as even like, I'm interested in like legislation and like, I feel like, not to get off topic, but even with like copyright and things, it's almost like the parameters around it can't keep up with how fast it's moving, and I feel like something similar is happening with AI, of course.
Yeah.
So how do you guys kind of navigate that? And I know it's a big question, so
it's a huge question, Magenta. Yeah.
Whichever you feel, whatever point you kind of feel most passionate about. But
it is. Yeah, definitely something worth thinking about for people working in technology, especially with a product that touches AI, or for us, a product that has cameras on it.
Yeah, so how do privacy and everything.
The privacy.
We could go on and on.
Certainly, the privacy thing is something I think about a lot. Yeah, I guess so. There's like the two prongs of the AI and privacy, which could certainly come together also in some way. But I guess on the privacy thing first, some things I think about are like comparing a drone in the sky with a camera on it to your typical CCTV camera that's plastered to a wall. I guess one pro of the drone is that it's active. So it's not the CCTV camera is just recording all the time. And like presumably someone's looking at that footage or it's recorded. That kind of sucks. The drone, you can just point where you need it when you need it, which is nice. One thing that also makes me feel better, or one thing Skydio can do specifically, and that we are doing, is being careful about, who gets these things. So when I started, a big part of our business was consumers. So we used to make drones for consumers, like follow me camera, like follow me and film me while I'm mountain biking. These days, you cannot just go on Skydio.com and buy a drone. So if, anti-privacy LLC like reaches out to buy a drone, we're just going to say no. But yeah, certainly when working with like police departments, what we try to do is just celebrate the ones and sell to ones that are what we think doing this the right way. And it is so new that it's hard to know, but I think we have a good sense that like transparency and communication are super important around the privacy stuff specifically.
Right.
So I think a lot of police departments who are using drones to like respond to 911 calls, similar to what they do for the body worn cameras, is they publish when they have flown and like filmed with the drone. So I think that's super valuable, and we got to keep up with that. Those are some things on the privacy side. On the AI side, certainly I'm grateful that we don't work with weapons, because I think that area is rife with terror of drones that are flying autonomously with munitions on board is pretty terrifying. I think this is where like the legislative bodies can help. Like when you're working with the FAA, like we do so much, they really care about there being a pilot in the loop currently. And these things are all evolving. So over the next 5 to 10 years, I'm sure they'll change a lot. But currently, like with our drones, even if someone is sitting at a desk flying one remotely from their computer, I mean, that it is required that they are watching. And in most places,
it's not fully just independent without being watched on anything.
Exactly. Even if it's flying autonomously and moving all on its own,
someone's still keeping
an eye on it, which I think is super important. Certainly as like the FAA evolves and flying like multiple drones from a single person or a single controller becomes more of a thing, that will become more challenging. It's like making sure this person, whoever is watching, to make sure all the drones are doing what they're supposed to do. But I think this is where, relying on the FAA some to like set the groundwork and move a little slowly is healthy. Which is a tough thing, because in some ways we also wish the FAA would move faster. It's definitely a tough balance.
It's hard because it is heavy. It's like, it makes sense that they need to take time to figure out what the best strategy moving forward is. But I also think, the technology is just moving so fast. You can't ignore that. There's kind of a desperate need for, like regulative bodies to kind of keep up.
And I honestly don't know what their top concerns are. Like if they're thinking about drones flying, like, are they thinking about, a cop flying a drone in the street and like using the camera to like peep in someone's window? Or are they more concerned about it just falling out of the sky and hitting someone? Like which probably the latter.
Big concerns.
Both huge concerns. We're much more certain about and confident in the second one of like,
it's not going to drop out of the sky and hit somebody.
At least in terms of my world of like the hardware and building the thing, we're always getting better at making them just super reliable. But big, huge questions.
We could go on and on. Like I said, we're going to invite you to LA. We'll do a part 2. We'll do a demo of the drone, which would be awesome. And I would also love to do a part 3 or part 4. No, but another part where maybe we can tour the shop at some point if you guys are open to that, which would be fun.
That'd be really fun.
We're trying to do more of our detoured episodes. We used to have this detoured series where we would tour shops all over. We did like the Arduino manufacturing facility, which was super cool. And we did different prototyping labs and across all kinds of disciplines and industries. So it was fun. I selfishly just want to bring it back because it was like one of my favorite projects we were working on.
That is like my favorite category of YouTube video by far. It's the shop tour.
Totally. What is one thing outside of technology that's inspiring you right now?
It's definitely my son. The thing that surprised me about being a parent is seeing the way as he has grown, the way he's changed or the way he interacts with toys and like physical things has changed. And that's super fascinating to watch. Like,
have you made him any toys?
Have I? I've 3D printed him some Brio tracks.
Nice.
For spares or like some fun custom ones. But no, cool. I wish I have made him more. But
it's kind of a constant dilemma. Stuff. I feel like we could talk about all kinds of projects that like, you've started, and it's like when you work in a space like that, you never make as much stuff as you think you're going to make or hope to make, because you're also doing it all day for for business.
Exactly.
And stuff.
Yeah. It's also like sort of the curse of things like Amazon, or like he had this, really cute little like switch box, like a box with a bunch of switches on it and like LEDs turn on, and it broke. And we're like, oh, I could make him a really sweet one. Like we have extra switches at work and LEDs, and like I could put in the time to make this. Oh, or we could just buy him like a new perfectly good one on Amazon for like $9.
Yeah. And I can save myself whatever the 9 hours or whatever to make it. Yeah. I know. I saw a cool toy that my friend's kid had that was like basically all the fun hardware from a hardware store that's like, door latches and things like that. Hinges, whatever. And I was like, oh, I could totally make a cute version of this. And I was like, one day maybe I'll make it as a gift. Have I done that yet? No, but maybe one day. Still, it's in the idea ethers.
Yep.
But okay. And last but not least, what's on your personal bill of materials?
Yes. So for me, I just think about what makes up Eric at work, I guess. I mean, some of these could carry over to home, but I think about the things that I carry with me or use a lot. Mm-hmm. So it's a good pocket knife.
I actually haven't heard pocket knife in a while. Really? I think that is a solid response. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. I'm a little bit ashamed to say that like 99% of the use is just opening packages.
Yeah,
but
that's real.
I still think it's good to have,
you don't have to
a
scramble
rigid,
to find the scissors somewhere.
Yeah. Pocket knife, definitely on my person at all times at work. The other two I'd highly recommend and carry with me a lot or use a lot are prescription safety glasses. Those are like incredible and way cheaper than I thought they would be. So you don't have to
double up the glasses.
Yeah, doubling up is terrible.
Yeah, that's clutch.
As a glasses wearer. And then, custom fit earplugs also.
Ooh,
also way cheaper than I thought they would be, and like highly recommend.
I was just telling Gio, my colleague, that I really want to get some of the over the ear protection with built-in like Bluetooth headphones, because I'm always putting my AirPods
under
inside
the
the headphones and or whatever hearing protection, and like it works some of the time, but like if it just shifts slightly, the AirPod pops off, but then it's in there, but it's not playing. And I'm like, just buy the Bluetooth hearing protection. Totally. But custom so earplugs. That's cool.
2 custom things I'd highly recommend.
Nice.
And then a good notebook. And then, last thing, a hand tool that I really love is a ceramic deburring tool. We use these.
Ooh, no.
Yeah. So the normal swivelly deburring tool. Mm-hmm. This is just like a handle with like a ceramic triangle on the end.
Okay.
And they're just really great for like really light touch-ups on stuff, especially very plastics. Cool. You can take like really fine.
Okay, I need to look into that as well.
Deburring.
I love these like funky tools. I'm like, could have a whole video series on funky tools. Yeah. We'll hit you up if we ever make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. No, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. If there's anything else you want to shout out before we wrap it up, any exciting personal projects or anything you want to throw out there, I'm going to say like follow you on Instagram. Is your Instagram public?
My Instagram is public.
I feel like your Instagram always has cool projects that you're working on. You've gone through some phases of like, I love, I don't know if it was like 100 days of this or 30 days of that, but I love series like that.
Yeah, it was every week for about 3 years, where every week for 3 years I made some kind of art and posted it online.
Yeah.
And that was really fun and like a big challenge, and was a good exercise in just sharing work that you otherwise wouldn't have shared, because I'm horrible at sharing work. But you can find me on Instagram. Yeah, I haven't posted much recently, but it's public.
Awesome.
Same with my website.
Very
and
cool.
Then if you're interested in Skydio, skydio.com. We actually just yesterday, May 29th, we posted a job for a prototyping lab specialist.
Ooh,
so if you want to come work with me in the lab. Yeah,
awesome.
Skydio.com/careers.
Eric's a great person. You want to work with him, work at this space. Very cool. Well, we'll put it out there. We'll find the link and post it as well on the show. And thank you so much for the time, Eric. It was so cool to catch up and hear about everything that's happened since last time. And we have to not let so much time pass between the next one.
Definitely.
And definitely looking forward to part 2 one day.
Thanks. Yeah, it was great to be here. Thanks.
That was Eric Weinhoffer, Senior Hardware Development Specialist at Skydio. I'm your host, Magenta Strongheart, and this is The Bomb. If you like The Bomb, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow Supplyframe and Hackaday on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Design Lab at Supplyframe Design Lab on Instagram and Twitter. The Bomb is a Supplyframe podcast produced by me, Magenta Strongheart, and Ryan Tillotson. Written by Maggie Bowles and edited by Daniel Ferreira. Theme music is by Anna Hogbin, show art by Thomas Schneider. Special thanks to Giovanni Salinas, Bruce Dominguez, Thomas Woodward, Jin Kumar, Jordan Clark, the entire Supply Frame team, and you, our wonderful listeners. I'm your host, Magenta Strongheart. See you next week.